Hey guys, so we're gonna go through a wedding video that I shot. I used to do a lot of wedding videography. I thought it might be a good idea to kind of take you through this video. I'm gonna go ahead and talk through it actually while it's playing in the background so that we can kind of, stay concise and stuff. So the main thing in this video is I had two different shooters. One was me with the groom and one was with the bride. And you can see that we're just getting inserts, and I knew I have kind of a formula here where we're just gonna get inserts and inserts and inserts of both the bride and the groom, and then eventually we're gonna come together. But for this one I kind of did an intro where they had a song in mind that they wanted me to put this video to. Here's a movie shot, stabilizer at 60 frames per second. Did a lot of 60 because I think that just looks beautiful. This is all close-up stuff on the groom. So here, detail shots really good. I really love storytelling with weddings because you can kind of shift back and forth. At this wedding, they actually got all their guests onto a bus and shuttled them from their hotel all the way up to this very nice venue, which we'll see later. So again, we got to the venue before the bus did, got some detail shots. I added a flare there, which is a technical thing doing editing, back on the movie. And you can see this is 60 frames per second. And there's our title. So this is a little bit of a longer video. It's about 8 minutes because they wanted a full coverage. I used a lot of flares like that to kind of cover and hide edits and make it a little bit more magical and cinematic. They really love this video. I'm really stoked that they like this. This was one of my first wedding videos fully. Had a couple of camera operators. So really it's kind of documenting stuff. You kind of just have to make sure they're in the right amount of light. You want to make sure that you get the details of the dress and of the getting ready. We did a lot of that. You can see the operators, myself are doing the groom, so we're making sure to get smiling faces, just anything you can cut to really. The putting the dress on when they let you get in the room. My second videographer is actually a girl, and she's very good at what she does, and it kind of makes them more comfortable when you're shooting a wedding like that, when there's a girl in the room and there's a girl putting a dress on. Something to think about, but obviously it doesn't need to be. She's also very talented. So, the big thing about shooting weddings is just getting the whole day, getting the story, the lead up, making sure that things are moving and progressing, and you're telling a story in a nice way. Here, sitting with her mom, getting details while the photographer is shooting is really great, and try not to be in their way. You can see the photographer there on the right side. I've worked with her as a photographer before, and she's really great. So, we get to the place, telling a story again of the bus traveling. I think that was a big detail of their wedding, so we wanted to make sure that that was represented. You can see Allie there is on the bus, and she's shooting the guests, she's shooting arriving, she's shooting from inside the bus, and I was already there at the venue shooting from outside the bus, and really just kind of capitalizing on what we're at. Back on the movie, we're getting some moving shots. This is what kind of adds some production value to it. Having gimbals is a really great way to up what looks like a very expensive shoot may not end up being. Puppies are always good. So here's the glass chapel. I like to do tilt ups and tilt downs to kind of establish where you're at. A big wide is always great wherever location you're in. And here we're switching to 60. So here I like doing 60 frames per second. It's a slow-mo. Again, shooting at a higher frame rate will kill a lot of exposure. See here it's a little bit brighter, and you can do push-ins and stuff like that. You can do pans and stuff with your guests, panning across the groomsmen. Again, I can't stress enough, like all this is really just getting every single detail and every single thing and trying to be there at the right time. So again, movie shots, this is booming down, another good way to do gimbals. I had someone post it up at the end of the walkway with a long lens. This is a 70 to 200 on a smaller DSLR. And really this is the only shot we could have because this place would not let us up onto the altar. 7200, I think I zoomed in a little bit. The audio is kind of rough. I also tried to get a Zoom recorder plugged into their PA system. Didn't work out very well, but that's usually the best way to do it, is just to get your H4n plugged into their PA system with just an XLR cable so that you always have the audio from their speeches and whatnot. Again, there's another gimbal shot. This was really my only shot and coverage of the kiss and everything. 7200, it's beautiful. It's got some foreground. We nailed it. Made sure to be recording back to the gimbal as they're walking out. 60 frames per second. Unfortunately, back then those DSLRs would only shoot 60 frames per second at 720 and not 1080, so the resolution's a little bit lower. You can kind of tell, but I don't think the average person watching this can really tell the quality. Only people who really know what quality is and has to do with. Then them getting in the rolls. Again, anything you shoot, get details, get medium, and get a wide. Back to the 60 frames per second. As a rule, personally, when I'm shooting weddings and events, I tend to only shoot 60 frames per second unless somebody is talking or we're trying to catch the audio. That's really when there's only a problem. So back to the 60 frames, back to the gimbal. They've arrived at their venue. Everyone's excited. This is when it started to get a little tricky for us because it got much darker inside this venue. You can see we're starting to lose the blacks. This is right before they go into the venue. Again, just trying to stay very magical. I mean, that's the kind of the point of the thing we do with weddings. Staying magical, staying fun, staying pretty. Here, I had our camera operators go around and with the 70 to 200 just kind of pick off guests. You can kind of see, like, it's really great to have guest footage in the middle of your shoot and get that flare as well. That flare. They had a really great venue. It was up in the South Bay in Palos Verdes. It was overlooking the sunset, which we quickly started to lose light after all these little cocktail cake details, very important. And the settings. It's a good time to get, before they enter the venue, to get settings in the room. It's a really good time to do that. This was really special because it was a New Zealand wedding. The groom was actually a Kiwi, and in New Zealand, it's the haka is very, very dear to the indigenous culture there, and they've kind of assimilated there with them. And so his groomsmen and people growing up in New Zealand learn the haka, and it's kind of a tradition that they do at weddings for the groom or the bride, New Zealand weddings in general. So this is a very big part of the wedding. It's his bros doing it. We shot most of it on the Mobi, wanted to include it in there, had the audio from the PA again. I didn't include all the speeches in this video because that's not what they asked for. They just wanted highlights. They had a guy Skype in to give a speech, which was pretty funny. Maid of honor. Really just making sure you get each snapshot for their highlight reel, if that's what you're doing. They played games with their shoes, parents giving toasts, just really good coverage. Singers, these guys had a live band, which is great. You start to lose light here at the end of the night, which is a little bit hard with those older cameras. I think nowadays with a mirrorless and A7, you probably be better off doing that. But again, concentrating on what's going on, what's the feeling, getting inserts, getting wides, and then for this one, I did a nice little recap, which I really love. That's probably one of my favorite shots right there. And then the ending shot, tried to silhouette them at night. And yeah, it's a good little wedding video. You know, if you're doing wedding photography, wedding videography, it's a whole nother level of things. And there's definitely a formula to doing it. So just get out there, start shooting.